competition and giving, serving and forgiving, love wins.
Welcome to the Compassion Hub, where we are all about elevating women and girls to rise into leaders here on this planet. And we are here in Seattle today with Kris from Women of Wisdom and many other avenues of leadership for women on this planet. And I'm so honored to be here. I actually recently met her at the Women of Wisdom conference here in Seattle back in February. And it was just an amazing experience, such a diverse group of women really there to really be fueled into finding wisdom and community. And she leads an incredible Voices for Women, a radio show.
Voices of Women, yes.
Voices of Women on Fridays at 1 o'clock. And she has written a beautiful book called Women of Wisdom. And a dear friend of mine did the artwork on the front of it, Deborah
Kopf-Chapin, yes.
Deborah Kopf-Chapin from Whidbey Island. And so we could go on and on and on of all the wonderful things that Kris does, but welcome here for being here with us today. And she's actually going to be the featured leader this Sunday on Mother's Day, out of all beautiful days on the planet. This Sunday from 11 to 12:30 here at the Compassion House, right here in this room. And so just wanted to spend some time getting to know you a little bit and sharing all the wonderful things about you. So I would really love to know why Women of Wisdom? What began this journey to really bring women more into the wisdom and the leaders of this planet? What started this for you?
What started it was, it goes way back in the 80s, of being at a workshop where we were told to write down what our purpose was. And I wrote bringing people together. But I didn't know what that meant. And there was a lot of steps along the way. I call them signposts. Mm-hmm. And so it would be revealed as I was ready. And it really was probably 4 or 5 years later where, I'd done my inner personal work and was in a healing group. And some people were doing some hands-on healings on me. And this woman, 2 weeks in a row, said, "You need to be an advocate for women." Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what she meant at all. It was kind of like, what am I going to march downtown Seattle and burn my bra? Or what does that mean, to be an advocate for women?
Yeah,
And so, but then it was 2 weeks later, I was just driving down Aurora late night, and this idea came in. I was on the board at Seattle Unity Church that had a speaker program to bring women leaders from this book. I just finished reading The Feminine Face of God by Sherry Anderson and Patricia Hopkins, and it's a fabulous book of different women from different spiritual backgrounds, and I love stories. Yeah. And I thought, let's bring these women, or women like these women, to Seattle. And then it immediately came in, it needed to be a week-long conference to create community. And so there was that thing of bringing people together. It came true. And so since I'd done all this work, it so resonated. I didn't even question myself, what makes me think I could do that? Yeah. It was just the next day I went to the church and said, hey, I'd like to do this. Wow. And I got together women from the church that I knew, and we created 9 months. Every year it seems to take 9 months to create the first conference. And it was just one conference we were planning.
Yeah. And
then the first words out of my mouth when I opened that evening was, welcome to the first annual. And this is like spirit talking, where did that come from? And there you go, we just did our 23rd year. And so it's been a real journey. And
oh, my goodness.
Developed. But, since we did a lot of work in that first year, creating our base and who we were, what we wanted, what our purpose, and so, a lot of those things are still in play now. And one of them is to make it accessible for everyone. And so our conference is very unique. It's very in-depth. Time where women have a chance to share their stories. Mm-hmm. And what I found over the years is so many women, and I think we're less so now, but being so isolated that they don't share who they are out of fear of valuing their own voice. And so it's been a place for women to share or listen to other women share their story. Yeah. And when we listen to other stories, it validates our own story. We go, oh wow, I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm not alone in this.
Yes.
And then allows them to share, and with that comes healing. And then over the years, it's just been the connections, the community that's been built, and friendships, and other organizations have birthed out of Women of Wisdom. And so it's very important for women to come together to support each other, and to listen to each other, and to share who they are, and to have role models. And one of the reasons to bring these speakers from nationally known authors and speakers and the women's spirituality movement was for us to see role models of who we could be, who we're called to be, what we're called to move into.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to know that Women of Wisdom has stayed strong for 23 years. And I wonder what your thoughts are about the planet right now, because it does feel right now that there are so many inspiring women organizations and that are helping women leaders rise up and the feminine rise up. And do you feel that there is something collectively on this planet right now that is different from when you felt that obvious, like, pure call, I mean, whatever we want to call it, right? The creative, divine.
Yeah. I call it a divine idea.
Yeah. It's like it comes in and you have to do it. Do you feel like there's something even more now as in back then?
And we see it because of the internet. We've brought, we were all sort of isolated before. We didn't know what was going on. And now with the internet, you can Google search. So we get a lot of women who will join our committee or come to the conference because they're new to Seattle. And they find, they Googled, I don't know, women's groups, women's spirituality, whatever they Googled, they'd find women of wisdom and they'd show up. And so the internet has brought a lot of this to people. And then I can see where other groups are in other cities. And yes, it has expanded so much. And I think women are on the rise, and there's a big call for women for me, it's like step into leadership. It's time women step into leadership. And so that's one of the things why I do the Voices of Women radio show, is to bring women authors, and there's so much going on in the women's field right now.
So much.
It's exciting.
It is.
And the thing is to not be in comparison, and I can go there easily, like, somebody else is doing this great conference in California, and we don't do what they do, and look who they've got as speakers, and then I have to remember, like, but they don't have what we have. We have an in-depth of 23 years experience and life-changing, and we're all different. And there's a place for everyone. Because we all have our unique voice. Even organizations have their unique voice, and people will be drawn to whatever they're drawn to.
Absolutely. And, so Kris and I, just to share a little bit, we're actually in collaboration and have been building upon the representation of It's Time Now as a network of networks that's becoming more global and national and local, and that is a place that is really about that, of the let's step away from that competitiveness of women, really organizations that are holding space for women and youth, young women, to be leaders. But we are in that building process, which is so exciting. It's like it's time now for all of us to really rise together and be a community versus competitive. And I mean, what are your thoughts about that, of that sense of the community within Women of Wisdom and the larger collective community? Like,
I think it's important to be partners with other organizations, and Women of Wisdom wants that too, and we need to work together. If we're going to raise the consciousness, the feminine consciousness, it's a collaborative effort. And to know what other people are doing and to support each other. We all do things in a different way, so we can support each other, and we're all for that. And it's an exciting time to be a woman.
It's so exciting to be on the planet. It is. It feels that. And for men too, I feel so often people go, oh, well, why are you only talking about women leadership? And it's like, well, actually, the more we elevate women, that's also elevating men, because it feels, at least for just speaking for myself, that when I'm in a room with women that are elevated in who they want to be, there's something that's happening with the men right now too that I feel is coming into that wholeness of the feminine and the masculine right now, collectively on the planet. The more we come into that wholeness of who we are, of not maybe just serving from one aspect of being a man or being a woman, or even just gender-wise, but just this rising of wholeness feels like what's happening on the planet. But I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
When you're talking, it reminds me of man needing to embrace the feminine and to bring that forward. And it hasn't been safe for them to do that. I remember being interviewed on a radio show and sharing something, and someone called in, and thank you for saying that, because I don't feel safe bringing my feminine into the workplace. And so they only can come in halfway. And women have to bend, and I call it, walk in with men's clothing. You have to survive in the corporate world or in a lot of places, you have to be you're not allowing yourself to be who you are, because you have to fit into that format of being competitive or being totally action driven. And what women bring to organizations is the process. And together, it's not about women taking over the world and it's not about women win. It's about bringing that balance. And that's why there's so much emphasis on the feminine, because it's not, it's the feminine, we're still a patriarchal society, and so it's this masculine level, and it needs to balance. So there's emphasis on the feminine just to bring it to balance.
Yes.
And for men to even see that it works. And actually, you're starting to read things in some companies that are embracing women leaders and bringing feminine traits to leadership. That they're having also. They're putting people before product and before money. That they're having a better bottom line too. They are thriving and surviving and doing better business wise because they are embracing that whole. And that's exciting to get that feedback. Like, hey, this does work.
Yeah, to actually see the outcomes that are real and tangible. That this isn't just some like woo woo idea.
And we've got a long ways to go. If you look at the statistics, I don't know, it's a few years ago, but I don't think it's changed much. 3% of executives in the state of Washington are women. 3% out of 100%. And the government, well, they've been saying 16. I heard 20 now. 20% in the legislature in Washington D.C. being women, and yet, so who's representing? More than 50% of our society is women, and children, and so who's representing that voice? And that's why it's so important for women to be stepping up into leadership. We're a leader. I always say you're a leader of your own life. Because a lot of women don't want to be a leader of an organization. They don't want that responsibility. I've got a lot to do to keep my household going, my family going, my children going. But we are a leader of our own lives, and so it's for women to step up into leadership and just show up and have their voices be heard.
Yeah, it feels like that's really what it's about, is to like own who you are, like to own and know that your voice is valued, is really being a leader. Right? I mean, and you brought up children too, which I also want to say part of the Compassion Hub here is around elevating women and girls and young boys. It's like, how can we really hold space for them as well to rise up in who they are? And I mean, I would say even when I was a young girl, it was scary to talk in a classroom, and like I was really shy growing up. And,
I was too. I sat in the back of the room, the back of the classroom. I did not raise my hand. And that's still the case with girls today.
Yes, and I know that's something something you want to really bring in is young girls, and I'm really excited to talk to you about that and see how we can really rise that through It's Time and Women of Wisdom, and how to really bring the youth into the picture so we can so they can really fly in who they are in their life. How do you see yourself doing that? What is that?
Well, I know that I want to, and Women of Wisdom wants to take a team, go to schools, but you have to go where the girls are.
Right.
They're so busy too. They don't have time to come to you. So to go to the schools and offer a program where we have talking circles and fun activities, but where they realize their voices are important and where they build self-esteem. And so this stepping back and not letting their voice be heard, because if you don't see leaders out there and women leaders out there, there's that message that women's voices aren't important. And I've read that, they just sort of give up, and my voice isn't heard, so why bother? Right. And the thing is, no, you do need to bother. You do need to have your voice heard. It is important. And so part of the program is to develop that self-esteem and self-respect, that you know the value of who you are and what your gifts are, to develop your gifts at any age. We're still, we're 67-year-olds looking at developing our gifts. I'm still working on developing my gifts.
Right, like figuring out who we are. I mean,
and that's our unique gift of what to bring and to learn it. I mean, if we could have learned this when we were teenagers, and we can, this intergenerational thing now, that we can gift this to the young girls, they'll be so much farther ahead. I'm so jealous. I wish I was a young person now.
But I think that the youth is very lucky to have women like you and women like us that are really here to celebrate them. That maybe there was a reason that we didn't have that when we were younger or something. I don't know, but yeah, and so on Sunday, tell us on Sunday, we've got 30 minutes, we'll be dancing, we're going to be doing some Nia together, embodying the change of who we want to be on the planet, and then we're really going to spend some time with Kris, and I'm curious, what are you wanting to share with us? on
Well,
Sunday?
I think it's similar to what I've been talking about, but I also just intuitively like what the group is calling for that
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the feminine way of being a
Yes.
leader there.
Right.
But I think I think one of the important things is storytelling, and everyone has a story to tell, and to be witnessed and validated. And so we may do some storytelling.
Cool.
Talking circles are very important, and yeah, it's about owning your voice and recognizing your gifts and telling your story.
Beautiful. And just one other thing, well, a couple more questions I have to ask. One is, compassion is obviously pretty important with the Compassion Hub. How do you define compassion?
Well, what comes to me right now is allowing yourself to be in someone else's shoes, to feel what, and so you can see things from a different perspective than your own. We're so caught in our own world and how we see things that it can really allow us to have that compassion for others, and to realize we're all on this planet to figure things out together and to grow, and it's that collective consciousness, and so we have to have compassion.
Yes. Thank you. And one other question, because I've told you that I wanted to ask you it earlier. What are you afraid of right now, but you're doing anyway, Kris?
Oh, who likes to admit their fears? Well, my goal this year is to get out there and be speaking, and so and it's not sort of a fear; it sort of blocks. So where am I going to find places to go speak and get this message across, and to push myself further into what my purpose is and my mission is, and so I have to pay attention to the blocks within me that stops me from doing that, because it's very easy to just stay in the familiar and not push that limit on me. And I'm not afraid to go talk to groups. It's more, how do I find them, and how do they find me, and how do they see me as someone they want to hear from? That's more of a fear. They're not going to. Why would they hire me to go speak? Because what do I have to say? The same thing I'm teaching. You teach what you need to learn.
That's true. Yeah.
But it's that self-respect and understanding what gifts you have to bring, and to know what my voice can bring to others, to empower them to have their voice. And so that's kind of my mission now, what I want to focus on right now, amongst many other things. And so my biggest fear is having the time to really do that, because I can get so scattered and doing so many different things.
Right. Well, it sounds like that. I wish that this will be a blessing here. I'm sure many will hear that she is seeking places to speak, and I'm sure that will just come back. The universe will hear that. And just wanted to mention, so womenofwisdom.org is where we can find out more information about you, and there are some events coming up this month as well. The pampering,
we have a Sacred Pampering Day for Women, and so this is for self-care and self-compassion, because we women, we are so multitask, taking care of everybody else. This is a day to take care of yourself. And you just pay one fee, come in the door, and you get to experience different modalities of healing that women are coming to share and gift. They volunteer their time. It's a fundraiser for Women of Wisdom, but it's a day for you to just have an enjoyable time and just be in the presence of other women and hang out and get some self-care.
Yes, self-compassion. We've got to take care of ourselves before we take care of the world. And
that's May 30th.
May 30th. So, yes, it's so wonderful to communicate with you today and to be in community with you. And I look forward to see what else unfolds as the future awaits here, of the urgency of its time now, and the wisdom and need for more leadership for women. So thank you all for being here, and let's elevate each other together. Thank you.
And thank you for having me on your little video here.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say, I love working with you, and I love this intergenerational. We are different generations.
Yeah.
And I'm finding so much to resonate with people of a younger generation, to resonate and work together with so many gifts to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an honor. I'm excited about it just as much. So yes, yay.
Yay.
Power on.
Compassion gave